to a build video, and today I'm gonna be teaching you again how to build. Build better than these guys at least. So yeah. We are going to, or at least I'm gonna help you build. So the first thing you want to do is find your resources. So for example, find a terrain that you like. For me, I'm choosing this because it's the most plain.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Anyway, what you do is you say, oh, well, how big do I want my house? How small do I want my house? Right? So you kind of just build it the way you want it, how high you want to build it, you know? For me, I'm gonna use Axiom. Well, I'm not gonna use it for people that don't have it, but if you do have it, this is gonna be really helpful. You know, if you press Alt, and then you scroll up to Set of Symmetry, and then press Control F on this side and this side, you end up making it symmetrical, right? So it's gonna be really helpful. However, I'm not gonna use it for the people that don't have Axiom and don't know how to work Axiom. So I'm probably gonna make it this tall, and we're gonna have maybe this, or actually I could try this. It's a little bit thinner, but just as a reminder, yes, you can put blocks right here and it'll be just fine, but what I recommend is to put blocks on the inside so it creates more depth, because later on we'll be doing other stuff with the exterior to decorate it. So just keep in mind, if you're going to use that strategy, just notice how small it's going to be on the inside. Like, if I were to do this, it's going to be 4x4, which I'm fine with 4x4. This is like an actual starter base, but yeah, just kind of do as you please or whatever, you know? But this is going to be the base. I will do a second floor for the people that are going to be doing second floors, and one right here, right? So yeah, there's going to be the base. Just add another layer. By the way, if you have Axiom, it's not going to end up like this, because if you were to put Axiom, right, as you can see, if it goes on all sides, and if I were to do that here, it would copy and paste it to there. So I just don't recommend Axiom if you're going to do builds like that are off-centered. If you do want to do builds off-centered, but you also want to use Axiom, I just recommend placing it a little bit off-centered to where you want to do it. So it's like, you know, more symmetrical to where you want to build. But yeah, so this is going to be the base of my build, right? It's not fancy or anything, but you know, right? We could, okay, so I already have some ideas for what we could do for roofs, but we're going to get to that in a bit. For now, we need to focus on the walls, then the roofs, and then the interior stuff. We're not completely done with the base, actually. There are a couple stuff you need to add. For example, you need to add depth to it. Again, if you're gonna add a layer here, I don't recommend adding like little arches over here. So if you were to not do any arches on the outside, then I just recommend just skipping this part and move on to the next. But you kind of just put some stairs here to add a little bit more curve, I guess, and then you add these. Again, I'm not adding slabs and then that, because again, that might be a little too much for how short this is. You want to add these on the top as well, because again, you're going to be doing almost the same thing for the top. And that's why that's another reason why I didn't do the slab. So there's that. So I mean, that one is pretty much done. We can, if you want, you can add a little bit of stuff like this to the pillars. What I also like doing is stuff like this to add more depth to the arches. Maybe like, yeah, I like adding more like this. So you don't necessarily have to do this step, but I just like how this looks, so that's just how I'm gonna do it. You can do whatever you want, I don't really care. But yeah, just kind of do it as you please or whatever. Again, I use spruce instead of oak because the spruce matches the color of the oak more. This is a really good wood to match with other types of wood. Just a quick recap. What I did was I added an arch to add more texture and depth to it. I added the shelves and the slabs to add, more depth to the pillars. And up here, I'll probably just do something similar to it. Let me just do this instead, actually. But, you know. And, oh, actually, I forgot to put one right here, so there's that. So that is, you can add stuff on here if you want, like something like this. I'm just gonna do slabs to add a little bit more height to it. And yeah, that is, I mean, this part is done, right? Now the base is basically complete now. I recommend trying to find a pattern that's gonna go well together. So, for example, I mean, this looks a bit better, but you could also do stuff like this to, you know, add a little bit more stuff to it. What I mean by texturing is, for example, I could get this, I could get regular stone, maybe like cobblestone, and kind of just like texture it like this, and, you know, do stuff like this to it to add more pattern, maybe? Well, if we really want to make this more symmetrical, we can just kind of like do something like that. So yeah, that's what I mean by texturing. And obviously this looks way better, because not only do you have the stone at the bottom, which I highly recommend, but also you have this at the top. You know, it perfectly contrasts with each other. Sometimes when you're building, you want to add a little bit of creativeness with like the patterns and how they contrast each other. So there's that, and we kind of just copy that on all sides. So you need to add a couple of variants to the wall to make it stand out more. This is what we call gradients, right? So yeah, like you can kind of, there's actually two different types of gradients here. This is the first gradient, where it's like just randomized, it's not really any sorts of pattern, you know. But then there's this gradient, which is there's a pattern, as you can see. There's a stripe, a big stripe in the middle, and then that there is a pattern gradient. That's what I call it, at least. And that's just like some sort of like random jumbled up stuff. Right? There's many different types of glass, right? but mainly there's two important types: glass blocks and glass panes. The thing you want to do is, if you're making like a giant aquarium, I recommend glass blocks, because although glass panes is like better, it kind of just floods the whole, you know, the whole room and it makes it annoying. So I recommend glass blocks. But I don't recommend glass blocks for builds like this. It makes it look flat. I recommend glass panes, you know, so you can add them on all sides. But what I like doing personally is I like adding a little bit of white stain paint to add, I guess, a little more to it. This is like the frosted. This is like frosted or something like that. We'll add the, you know, door later maybe. But yeah, so what I see here is, well, this wall looks really good. You got the gradient, you got this gradient up here, and you got the paints. There's nothing more you can do, right? Well, there is actually some more stuff you can do to this. And, well, stuff like this, I recommend adding outerior to the walls, which is like, you maybe something like this. You kind of have to get a little creative with it, you know what I mean? So you could do stuff like this, or something like that. Or maybe, well, maybe it doesn't necessarily have to have stuff on the outside. Maybe just like, you kind of just have to get creative with it, honestly. I'll just doing this because, you know, like, I guess, you know, it was like, hold on, what is it called? Like, on the outside, there's like these things that's like, you know, outside curtains. I don't know what the fuck they're called, but yeah, so that's kind of like, you know, that's kind of like what I'm doing here. So as you can see, the wall, you know, the walls is like, well, this is pretty good. You can't get any better, can it? Well, here's the thing. Now you gotta add the door, right? Now, here's the thing. What most people do is they're like, oh, symmetry, right? Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some doors right here. I recommend these. These are like the best doors in the game. Right? I recommend this, right? Oh my goodness, looks so good. But something's a little wrong. It looks a little flat, doesn't it? Just like the windows before. You add a little, you know, a little bit more stuff to it. But you can make this even better. You can also add some from the inside to add more depth to the build. As you can see, it's a little less flat. Or you can take it even further, right? Let me just put this back real quick. By asymmetry, which you literally just put one door right here. And, you know, you can, oh yeah, you can also kind of like add like this and add more depth, which I like better. This, I like better. You can add doors in many different ways, so, you know. But I'm just gonna stick with this because this is what I like. It adds more personality to the build. We'll add the outerior later on, but, you know, this is gonna be the door, and you can add stuff like, maybe something like this, or, I mean, I think that's pretty good. Honestly, you can do whatever you want, but I'm probably gonna do something like, something just on the side, you know, so maybe something like this is fine. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be good, and you can change it whenever you want, so it's perfect. Again, I might even just change it a little bit in the future, maybe something like this. Perfect. Now you got something on the side. You could put a lantern, maybe I'm getting too carried away, but you could put a lantern right here, or maybe a flower, like somewhere over here if it fits. That's what she said. Okay, anyway, what are we gonna make the roof out of? Now here's the thing. The thing is that this adds a base, you know, this adds the structure, this adds the theme of the build, but what makes it look even cooler is the flare, and that's where the roofs come in. See, you don't have to add just one certain type of roof. You can add, you know, many different variants of roofs in one single build, and that's what's kind of cool about it. That's why I like experimenting with it. So, move on to the roof now. So, what I like doing here is I like adding a little bit of an outside to this, right? So, sorry. I like adding a little bit of an outside to it. You know, we'll just do a simple roof that kind of just attached to the side. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So, as you can see here, as I'm moving this, it's kind of like covering this, but not fully, and it doesn't have to. You don't necessarily have to get rid of this. In fact, you can make this stand out even more to add more to it, I guess. Again, it's how you like it. It's what you like to do. So, you know, I'm not stopping you from doing what you want, so you can do whatever. But I'm going to add this here and this here. We're just kind of testing. We are figuring out what we kind of want to do with this build, right? So I'm just going to do something simple like this. Maybe attach it to the side, right? We can attach it to the side. We'll have to get rid of this, obviously, and this might not become visible at the end. So, so yeah, this actually might be able to become another separate room, and that's what's cool about building. You don't know what you're going to get sometimes. What I personally like doing is with the roofs, you know how I said they add flare? Well, instead of adding one certain type of block, you can add two. I like doing the outside a little thicker than, you know, like 2 blocks, you know? But I'm gonna do something like this, or maybe, and if we don't like it, we could always change it, you know? Like, for example, this, it looks pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. But for me, the oak looks a little weird, so we might have to change it to something else, like maybe spruce. For a mistake by adding something new. So there you go. If you really want to, again, it's all about experimenting. So you kind of just have to see what you like and what you don't like. So if you feel click, okay. So this part of the roof is done. Now what do we want to do for this roof? There's many different types of options we like to do, right? A flat roof. So I'm probably just going to do a regular basic flat roof. If you're interested in trying to make more roofs, I might be able to make a video about it. So just kind of like, I guess, let me know. Maybe we keep a little something on the top over here. And maybe this roof isn't doing the best, so it's a little bit indented, you know? Again, it's all about adding character, you know? You kind of have to see, like, is this gonna be, you know, like, is this build, like, worn down? Like, maybe sometimes what's the backstory of what the build is, I guess. The roof is done, right? maybe you want to add something else to it. And actually, I kind of like this. I kind of like adding these on the sides. Maybe a little bit more. No. It's good the way it is. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so now you kind of have something that looks similar to this. You go inside. Oh, we look at that. That is some room. So we could probably destroy this wall, to be fully honest. You know, again, you could just add. Sometimes I like to add walls in my builds, you know, to add more to it. Again, it's all about adding more. So maybe get rid of this. And we'll see what it looks like on the outside. Building also comes with its flaws, so you know you kind of sometimes have to suck it up. Sometimes it's okay. For this, I think it's fine, to be honest. But you know, sometimes you just have to improvise. So there, yeah, the inside looks way cleaner. We could also, again, it's all about experimenting too. So if all this is trying to go upwards, then maybe we just kind of allow that, you know. So something like this could be cool. Maybe add a little bit here to get rid of that spruce, and you know, get rid of the. Yeah. So for me, I really like this. You know, it's pretty nice. It feels roomy. Now it's time for the floor. Now for me, the floors are pretty easy. But for me, I'm gonna do mud. You know, because they just add more to the build. It adds more personality. So I'm just gonna add mud and jewels. This is more gradients. So as you can see, well, this kind of looks a little bit weird, doesn't it? I mean, like, yes, it looks like a cool carpet, maybe. But other than that, really nothing to it. You add gradients though. Like you add something like this. You know. Oh wait, hold on. I don't know. I don't like this design in my opinion. So for me, it's just gonna be randomly scattered. Wow, look at this now. It looks a tad bit better now, doesn't it? We get more mud because it matches the floor. So we do something similar to this, where it's like this, you know, and just shoot. And again, it fits perfectly because this window's closed anyways. So there you go. And it leads to the next floor, which is amazing. So is you add slabs, so you're still able to jump. It's like still limited, yes, but it's way better. So yeah, so there's your staircase, and I mean, yeah, it's pretty functional overall. We'll actually do a sign because actually, the cool thing about building is that you can see how these kind of like complement each other. That's color theory right there. So that's like a dark blue even though sign, but and this would be like a dark orange, which is literally just brown. So they kind of like complement, and that's another cool thing about building. Maybe what you want to do is you want to add a little bit of a rail, not rail, a shelf. What am I saying? You know, maybe you want to add something like this. Perfect. You know, maybe you want to add a little bit more depth to this. You know, it's kind of like how you want to do it. So for me, I'm just going to do it like this. And there's my spawn point. You get your essential needs. You get your bed. You get your crafting table. You get your furnace. Oh shit, that's a nice spot furnace. You get your blast furnace because everyone has to have one of those. You get Yep. Maybe you add maybe you add this right here to add, I don't know, like a little bit of a division, I guess. Maybe you add carpet. You know, I'm probably just, maybe you add the sign carpet to match the bed and to match the floor. You could also do this up here if you want. So you got your crafting table, your furnace, your blast furnace, your bed, and then you just go up here and you get your chests. You know, this, you know, there you go. There's your storage, right? Maybe you get a lantern, right? I mean, it'll make things like a little bit overstimulating, but you add this. Maybe you get some azalea leaves. I recommend getting some variety when it comes to decorating. So maybe you want to do like maybe azalea leaves right here and you get something like this, or like, you know, maybe just, it kind of just depends what you really want. So maybe we don't do any azalea leaves. Thank you for supporting me, honestly, you know. And I'm sorry I haven't really like posted in a while, you know, just been busy and kind of lazy. So, you know, that's pretty much it. So yeah, I thank you for watching.